Aliens saw humans as prey. Now they know they were mistaken. The plasma bolt missed Katie's head by inches, scorching the metal wall behind her. She rolled left, her pulse rifle already spitting return fire at the hulking predator that had cornered her in the mining station's cargo bay. The creature was massive, easily 9 feet tall, with forearms ending in serrated claws and a mouth full of crystalline teeth that gleamed under the emergency lights. Katie was supposed to be extracting ore samples. Instead, she was fighting for her life against something that looked like evolution's cruelest joke. The alien lunged, impossibly fast for its size. She squeezed the trigger, stitching a line of rounds across its armored chest. The creature barely flinched. Its claws raked the container she ducked behind, tearing through reinforced steel like tissue paper. This was supposed to be a safe assignment. The Andromedans had assured Earth that this sector was uninhabited, perfect for resource extraction. They'd lied. Or they hadn't known. Either way, Katie was alone on Station 17 with something that clearly viewed humans as food. She vaulted over a stack of crates, buying herself seconds. Her earpiece crackled with static. The communication array was down, probably the first thing these hunters had destroyed. Standard predator tactics: isolate the prey, cut off escape routes, then feed. The alien crashed through the crates, roaring at a frequency that made her teeth ache. Katie fired again, this time aiming for the joints in its armor. One round found its mark in the creature's knee, and it stumbled. Dark ichor sprayed across the floor. She didn't celebrate. Where there was one, there were always more. The ventilation shaft above her exploded outward, and another alien dropped down, blocking her path to the docking bay. This one was leaner, faster. A scout, maybe. It chittered something in a language that sounded like breaking glass, and the wounded hunter behind her responded with a wet, bubbling laugh. They were communicating. Coordinating. These weren't mindless beasts. They were intelligent hunters who'd studied their prey and found humans wanting. Soft skin. Weak bones. No natural weapons. Just another species to add to their menu. Katie's magazine clicked empty. She dropped it, slammed a fresh one home, and made her choice. The docking bay was her only chance, but the scout was between her and survival. She feinted right, then dove left as the scout's claws whistled through empty air. Her boots found purchase on a fuel drum, and she launched herself up, over the alien's shoulder, firing down into the softer armor at the base of its skull. The scout collapsed, twitching. The hunter behind her roared in rage, charging like a freight train. Katie ran, her lungs burning, her legs screaming. The docking bay door was 50 feet away. 40, 30. She could see her shuttle through the window, waiting in the black. The hunter's footsteps shook the deck plates. 20 feet. She wasn't going to make it. The door controls were too far. She'd have to manually override, and that would take time she didn't have. The hunter would be on her before the door opened more than a foot, 10 feet. Katie made a decision that would either save her life or end it. She spun, dropped to one knee, and emptied her entire magazine into the charging predator's face. The hunter's momentum carried it forward even as it died, and Katie threw herself flat as 2 tons of alien corpse sailed over her and crashed into the door, denting it inward. She didn't wait to see if it was truly dead. Katie scrambled to the control panel, her fingers dancing across the emergency override. The door groaned open and she squeezed through the gap, running for her shuttle. Behind her, alarms began to wail. More of them were coming. The whole station was probably crawling with these things. The shuttle's engines were already warm. She'd learned long ago to never fully power down in hostile territory. Katie strapped in, punched the launch sequence, and felt the acceleration press her into her seat as the shuttle cleared the station's docking ring. Only then did she allow herself to breathe. But as the station shrank in her viewport, she saw them. Dozens of alien ships, sleek and predatory, swarming around the other mining platforms in the sector. This wasn't a random attack. This was an invasion. And Katie had just become the only person who knew humanity was on the menu. Katie's hands shook as she recalibrated the shuttle's long-range transmitter. Earth was 6 weeks away at maximum burn, and her fuel reserves wouldn't last half that distance. The nearest human outpost was the research colony on Kepler Station, 3 days out if she pushed the engines past their safety limits. She pushed them anyway. The transmission went out compressed and encrypted, a priority distress call that would wake up every military frequency monitor from here to the core systems. Katie kept it simple. Hostile contact. Multiple casualties presumed. Request immediate military response. She attached the sensor logs from Station 17, showing the alien ship spreading through the sector like a plague. 30 hours into the flight, her proximity alarms screamed. Katie's blood went cold, 3 contacts closing fast from her 6 o'clock position. The same predatory ship signatures from the station. They'd followed her. She diverted every spare joule of power to the engines, but physics was an unforgiving master. The alien ships were faster, their technology generations ahead of her mining shuttle. They'd overtake her in 20 minutes, maybe less. Katie checked her weapons. 1 pulse rifle with 2 magazines. A plasma cutter meant for rock, not combat. And a survival knife that seemed laughably inadequate against creatures that could tear through steel. The lead alien ship fired, a warning shot that vaporized a chunk of space debris half a kilometer off her starboard side. They wanted her alive. The realization sent ice through her veins. Dead prey was just meat, but live prey could tell them things. Troop locations, defense capabilities. How many humans were scattered across this sector, ripe for hunting? Katie did something desperate. She killed her engines completely, letting momentum carry her forward while she vented all her remaining fuel in a cloud behind the shuttle. Then she waited, counting seconds, watching the alien ships close in. When they entered the fuel cloud, she fired the plasma cutter through the shuttle's rear viewport. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. 1 alien ship vanished in a ball of superheated plasma. The second veered wildly, its hull scorched black, tumbling away into the dark. The third came through the fireball, damaged but functional, and Katie had no more tricks left. The alien ship latched onto her shuttle with a magnetic grapple. She felt the clang reverberate through the hole, then the high-pitched whine of a cutting torch. They were coming in. Katie grabbed her rifle, positioned herself behind the pilot's seat, and aimed at the airlock. The door blew inward with a concussive blast that left her ears ringing. 2 aliens squeezed through, these ones smaller than the hunters on the station, maybe 7 feet tall with 6 limbs instead of 4. Boarders, specialists. Their armor was lighter, designed for ship-to-ship combat in tight quarters. Katie opened fire. The first alien took 3 rounds in the chest and dropped, its purple blood painting the walls. The second was faster, closing the distance before she could adjust her aim. It backhanded her rifle away and grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the deck. Its grip was crushing, cutting off her air. She could see her reflection in its multifaceted eyes, could smell its breath, something between sulfur and rotting meat. The alien said something in that glass-breaking language, its translator chip rendering the words in halting English. Weak, soft, good hunting. It tightened its grip, and Katie's vision started to tunnel. She scrabbled at its arm with her left hand. Useless. Then remembered the survival knife on her belt. She drew and stabbed in one motion, driving the blade up under the alien's jaw, where the armor didn't quite reach. The creature shrieked, dropping her. Katie hit the deck, gasping, yanked the knife free, and stabbed again and again until the alien stopped moving. Her throat felt crushed, each breath a jagged agony. But she was alive. More movement in the airlock. A third alien, larger than the others, its armor covered in tally marks. A veteran. Katie tried to raise her knife, but her arm wouldn't cooperate. The veteran stepped over its dead companions, studying her with what might have been curiosity. It spoke, and its translator was better than the others. Your species fights well for prey. But you are still prey. We have hunted across 5 galaxies. We have consumed the warriors of 100 worlds. You will join them. Katie spat blood. We're not just another world. Her voice was a rasp, barely recognizable. You made a mistake coming for us. The veteran tilted its head, amused. A mistake? You are isolated. Weak. Your weapons are primitive. Your bodies are fragile. We have studied you. We know your limits. You know what we taught you. Katie's hand inched toward the plasma cutter, still lying where she'd dropped it. You don't know what we'd become when we're pushed. The alien reached for her, and Katie triggered the plasma cutter. The beam carved through its midsection, cauterizing as it cut. The veteran looked down at itself, confused, as its top half slid away from its bottom. It was dead before it understood what had happened. Katie lay there for a long moment, surrounded by alien corpses, her body a symphony of pain. Then she heard it, the most beautiful sound in the universe. A human voice on the emergency channel. Unidentified shuttle, this is Kepler Station Defense Perimeter. We've got you on sensors. Are you in distress? She crawled to the comm panel, pulled herself up. Kepler Station, this is Katie Morrison, sole survivor of Mining Station 17. I'm declaring a code black. We are under attack by a hostile alien species. They see us as prey. They're wrong. Permission to dock? There was a pause. Then, permission granted. Emergency teams are standing by. Welcome home, Morrison. Katie looked at the dead aliens scattered around her shuttle, at the blood, hers and theirs, painting every surface. She'd been hunted. She'd been prey. But she'd survived. And now, the hunters were about to learn why humanity had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on Earth. It wasn't because humans were the strongest or the fastest or the most heavily armored. It was because when humans were cornered, when they were hurt and bleeding and facing impossible odds, they didn't lie down and die. They fought back with everything they had, and they made sure their enemies regretted every second of the encounter. The aliens had made their first mistake when they attacked Station 17. Their second mistake would be thinking Katie Morrison was the exception, not the rule. Kepler's station was organized chaos when Katie stumbled off her shuttle. Medical teams descended on her immediately, but she pushed past them, demanding to speak to whoever was in command. The station commander, a grizzled woman named Helen Brooks, took one look at Katie's haunted eyes and the alien blood coating her clothes and cleared the room. Katie laid it out in 5 minutes. The attack on Station 17, the swarm of alien ships, the coordinated hunting tactics, the translator's chilling words about consuming warriors from 100 worlds. Helen listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. "How many ships?" Helen asked when Katie finished. "I counted 47 at Station 17 alone, but the sensor logs show signatures across the entire sector. Could be hundreds, maybe more." Katie pulled up the data on Helen's terminal, showing the spreading pattern of alien contacts. "They're not just raiding, they're establishing a perimeter, cutting off our mining operations, isolating our outposts. Classic predator behavior. Control the territory, then pick off the stragglers." Helen studied the data, her jaw tight. The nearest military fleet is 4 weeks away. Admiral Carter's battle group is conducting exercises in the Centauri system. By the time they get here, these hunters could have consumed every human in the sector. Then we don't wait for the cavalry. Katie leaned forward, ignoring the pain in her ribs. "We have 19 ships docked here. Mining vessels mostly, but they've got engines and they've got hulls. We arm them with whatever we can scrounge, and we hit back." "That's suicide," Helen said, but there was something in her voice that suggested she was considering it anyway. "Those are civilian ships crewed by engineers and miners, not soldiers." "I'm a geologist," Katie shot back. "I've spent the last 6 years studying rocks. But I killed 5 of those things today because the alternative was becoming dinner. Every person on this station has that same choice. We can hide and hope the aliens don't find us, or we can show them why hunting humans is a bad idea." Helen was quiet for a long moment. Then she opened a station-wide comm channel. "All hands, this is Commander Brooks. I need everyone in the main assembly hall in 10 minutes. This is not a drill." She turned to Katie. "You're going to tell them what you told me. And then we're going to give these hunters the fight of their lives." The assembly hall was packed with 300 frightened faces. Katie stood on the stage, still wearing her blood-stained clothes, and told her story. She didn't sugarcoat it. She showed them the footage from her shuttle's cameras, the aliens tearing through steel, the bodies of the boarders she'd killed. When she finished, the hall was silent. Then a young man in a mining engineer's jumpsuit stood up. His name tag read, "Jack. I came to space to build things, not fight wars. But if these things think they can hunt us like animals, they've got another thing coming. What do you need me to do?" One by one, others stood. A maintenance tech named Linda, who'd served in Earth's Navy before retiring. A cargo hauler pilot named Marcus, who'd grown up on the rough streets of Detroit and knew how to throw a punch. A hydroponics specialist named Amy, who'd lost her sister to raiders in the Belt Wars and swore she'd never be helpless again. They weren't soldiers, but they were human, and that meant something. Helen organized them into teams. Engineers stripped the mining lasers off the cargo haulers and repurposed them as weapons. The station's small security force distributed every weapon in the armory, then started manufacturing more from mining explosives and scrap metal. Katie found herself leading a tactical planning session with a dozen volunteers who'd had some form of military or law enforcement background. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The first alien scout ship arrived 18 hours later. It approached Kepler Station slowly, scanning, assessing. Katie watched from the command center as it circled the station like a shark. "They're looking for an easy meal," she said. "Checking our defenses, counting our ships. Let's give them something to see," Helen said. She ordered all but 2 ships to power down, making the station look vulnerable, understaffed. The alien scout moved closer. "Now," Helen ordered. The powered-down ships came alive simultaneously, their mining lasers blazing. The alien scout tried to evade, but it was designed for speed, not maneuverability. 3 lasers found their mark, punching through its hull. The ship vented atmosphere and went dark, tumbling into Kepler Station's gravity well. They didn't salvage it immediately. Helen wanted the wreckage visible, a message to any other scouts that came calling, but Katie convinced her otherwise. We need to understand their technology, their tactics. Everything we can learn from that ship might save lives later. The salvage team brought back a treasure trove, advanced propulsion systems that made human engines look like steam trains, weapons that could vaporize asteroids, and, most importantly, intact computer systems with star charts showing the full extent of the alien invasion. Katie stared at the data, her stomach sinking. The sector wasn't their only target. There were markers on 20 human colonies, 50 mining stations, 3 research outposts. The aliens were planning a systematic harvest of every human presence within 100 light-years. "We can't stop this alone," Katie said. "Even if we arm every ship in the sector, we're outnumbered 50-1. "No," Helen agreed. "But we can buy time, and we can make them bleed for every inch they take." She pulled up the tactical display showing the positions of all known alien ships. "They're spreading themselves thin, trying to cover too much territory at once. Classic overreach. If we hit them hard and fast, knock out their forward elements before they can consolidate, we might force them to pull back and regroup. Or we might just make them angry," Katie said. Helen smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Good. Angry predators make mistakes, and I want them so focused on us that they don't see Admiral Carter's fleet coming until it's too late." They spent the next 2 days turning Kepler Station into a fortress and its ships into a ragtag navy. Katie trained the civilian volunteers in basic combat tactics, everything she could remember from her mandatory service years and everything she'd learned the hard way on Station 17. Most of them wouldn't last 5 minutes in a real fight, but 5 minutes might be enough. The alien fleet arrived on the 3rd day. 15 ships, moving in formation, confident. Katie stood on the bridge of a converted mining hauler they'd renamed the Defiant, watching the aliens approach on the tactical display. Around her, a crew of 12 volunteers checked their weapons and equipment with shaking hands. "This is it," she said over the comm channel, broadcasting to all 19 human ships. "They think we're prey. They think we're going to run or hide or beg for mercy. Let's show them what humans do when we're cornered." The alien fleet opened fire first, but the human ships were already moving, scattering in patterns that Helen had choreographed. 3 mining lasers converged on the lead alien ship, overwhelming its shields. It exploded in a brilliant flash, and the alien formation faltered, surprised. Katie shipped the Defiant, screamed past an alien cruiser at full burn, her gunner raking its hull with laser fire. Shields flared and died. Atmosphere vented. The cruiser tried to turn to track them, but mining haulers were built to navigate asteroid fields. Katie threw her ship into a spin that would have torn apart a military vessel, came around behind the cruiser, and her gunner fired again. The alien ship went dark. 2 down. 13 to go. And the aliens were adapting, adjusting their tactics, coordinating their fire. A human ship called the Reckoning took a direct hit and exploded, killing all 8 crew members instantly. Another ship, the Prospector, lost its engines and went tumbling out of the fight. "Focus fire," Helen's voice crackled over the comm. "Pick targets and eliminate them. Don't give them time to coordinate." The battle devolved into a chaotic furball of ships twisting and turning, weapons blazing. Katie lost track of individual engagements, focused only on keeping her ship intact and finding targets for her gunner. They took out a 3rd alien ship, then a 4th, but the Defiant was taking damage. Hull breaches. Failing systems. Her engineer, a young man named Chris, was performing miracles keeping them in the fight. But miracles only lasted so long. An alien destroyer locked onto the Defiant, its weapons charging for a killing shot. Katie saw it coming, knew she couldn't evade in time. She opened a channel to her crew. "It's been an honor." Then a new ship appeared on her sensors, moving impossibly fast. Not alien, human, military grade. Its weapons tore into the alien destroyer, shredding it in seconds. More ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, dozens of them, sleek and deadly. Admiral Carter's fleet had arrived early. The remaining alien ships tried to flee, but the human military vessels ran them down one by one. It was over in 10 minutes. Katie sagged in her command chair, exhausted, hardly believing they'd survived. Her crew was cheering, crying, embracing each other. They'd won. Against impossible odds, they'd held the line long enough for help to arrive. But Katie knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had attacked human space thinking we were easy prey. Now they knew better. Now the real war would begin. Admiral Carter's flagship, the Retribution, was a beast of a ship, bristling with weapons and armor that made Katie's mining hauler look like a child's toy. She stood in the Admiral's conference room with Helen Brooks and the surviving ship commanders, 18 men and women who'd gone from miners and engineers to combat veterans in the span of 72 hours. Carter himself was a tall man with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. He studied the alien star charts Katie had recovered, his expression grim. "We've identified the species from our xenological databases. They call themselves the Krell, and they're bad news. They've been documented attacking at least 3 other spacefaring civilizations in the past century. All 3 were hunted to extinction within a decade. Not much of a track record," Helen said dryly. "No," Carter agreed, "but we have advantages they didn't. The Krell hunt species that are isolated, spread thin without coordinated military forces. They hit colonies on the fringe, consume the population, and move on before anyone can mount a defense. But humans aren't like that. We've got 78 colony worlds, 400 stations, and a unified military with over 200 capital ships. We can fight back." Katie pulled up the Krell star charts highlighting the marked human positions. They were planning to hit all of these targets simultaneously, overwhelm our ability to respond. If they'd succeeded, they could have killed millions before we even knew what was happening. "But they didn't succeed," Carter said, looking at Katie with something that might have been respect. "Because of you. You got a warning out. You fought when you should have died. You gave us time to mobilize." He turned to address the room. "Every person in this room is a hero. You held the line with mining equipment and improvised weapons against a species that's been hunting across galaxies for centuries. You showed them the humans don't break easily. With respect, Admiral," Katie said, "we didn't win because we're heroes. We won because the Krell made a fundamental mistake. They thought being predators made them superior. But predators are cowards. They only attack prey they think they can beat. They strike from ambush. They avoid anything that might hurt them back. Humans aren't like that. We fight things that scare us. We take risks. We throw ourselves at impossible odds because giving up isn't in our nature." Carter nodded slowly. "You're right. The Krell have been apex predators for so long they forgot what it's like to face real resistance. But they're going to learn. We're taking the fight to them." The fleet would be divided into 3 battle groups. The first would defend human space, protecting colonies and stations from further attacks. The second would hunt down Krell ships, turning the hunters into the hunted. The third, commanded by Carter himself, would follow the Krell star charts back to their home territory and deliver a message. Humans were off the menu. Katie volunteered for the third group. Helen tried to talk her out of it, arguing that she'd done enough, that she deserved rest and recovery. But Katie was adamant. "They came into our space thinking we were food. I want to see their faces when they realize we're the apex predators now." The journey to Krell space took 3 weeks. They traveled in a convoy of 20 military vessels, each one loaded with the most advanced weapons humanity had developed. They passed through empty systems where Krell ships had hunted, finding debris fields and the gutted remains of alien outposts. The Krell had been busy, consuming species after species, growing fat and complacent on easy victories. They encountered the first Krell battle group in a binary star system at the edge of Krell territory. 30 ships, the largest concentration of Krell forces anyone had seen. Carter didn't hesitate. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when they hunt humans." The battle was brutal and swift. The Krell ships were fast and well-armed, but they'd never faced coordinated military opposition. Human vessels moved in formation, supporting each other, overwhelming Krell shields with focused fire. When Krell ships tried to break away and flee, human fighters pursued, running them down without mercy. Katie watched from the Retribution's tactical center as Krell ship after Krell ship exploded or went dark. There was no satisfaction in it, no joy, just a grim determination. The Krell had started this war. Humans were going to finish it. By the time the battle ended, 28 Krell ships were destroyed or disabled. 2 escaped into faster-than-light travel, fleeing deeper into their territory. Carter ordered the fleet to pursue. Let him run, let him spread the word. Humans are coming. They found the first Krell colony 3 days later, a massive orbital station surrounding a gas giant. Sensor readings showed hundreds of Krell ships docked, along with civilian population centers. Katie expected Carter to order bombardment to glass the station like the Krell had probably done to countless other species. Instead, he opened a communication channel. The Krell commander who responded was enormous, even by their standards, with scarred armor and a voice that rumbled like thunder. "You have entered Krell space uninvited. You will be consumed for this insult." "No," Carter said simply. "You came to human space. You hunted our people. You killed civilians, miners, scientists, families. You thought we were prey. You were wrong." He paused, letting that sink in. We're giving you one chance. Withdraw from all human territories, return to your space, and never come back. If you refuse, we'll eliminate every Krell ship and station until you can't threaten anyone ever again." The Krell commander laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You are a single fleet. We are an empire spanning a dozen systems. You cannot defeat us." Carter smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Watch us. All ships, target their docked vessels, fire at will." The human fleet opened fire, and the Krell orbital station erupted in chaos. Dock ships tried to launch, but the human weapons found them before they could raise shields. Explosions rippled across the station's surface. The Krell commander screamed orders, and defensive batteries came online, firing back. But human ships were already moving, scattering, coming at the station from multiple angles. Katie coordinated one of the strike groups, directing fire on the station's power generation systems. If they could knock those out, the Krell defenses would collapse. Her group consisted of 6 destroyers and a heavy cruiser, each one dancing through the defensive fire with precision that would have been impossible without months of training. But these crews had trained their entire careers for combat. The Krell were about to learn the difference between warriors and hunters. The power stations exploded in sequence, and the defensive batteries went silent. The Krell commander sent a desperate transmission. "Stop. We will negotiate." "Too late," Carter said. "You don't get to negotiate after you lose. You get to surrender. Order all Krell forces to stand down immediately, or we'll reduce this station to scrap." There was a long silence. Then, reluctantly, the Krell commander gave the order. Across the station, weapons powered down. Krell ships that had managed to launch returned to dock. It was over. Carter broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every Krell in the system could hear. "This is Admiral James Carter of the Human Defense Fleet. You attacked our people believing we were weak. You hunted us believing we were prey. You were wrong. Humanity is not on the menu. Spread the word to every Krell in your empire. Stay away from human space, or we'll come back and finish what we started here today." The human fleet withdrew, leaving the Krell station intact but broken. Katie stood at a viewport, watching the orbital structure recede. She felt exhausted, hollowed out. The adrenaline that had sustained her through weeks of combat was finally fading, leaving only a bone-deep weariness. Helen found her there, equally tired. "We won," Helen said. "The Krell won't be hunting humans anymore." "For now," Katie agreed. "But there are always more predators. More species that think humans are easy targets because we're not the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. Then we'll teach them the same lesson," Helen said. "We're human. We don't give up. And when something tries to make us prey, we show them why Earth's apex predator wasn't the lion or the bear or the shark. It was us. Because we fight back." Katie managed a tired smile. "You sound like a recruitment poster." "Good. Because when we get back to human space, we're going to need a lot more recruits. The Krell might be out of the picture, but the galaxy is a big place. And now everyone knows humans are out here." Helen turned from the viewport. "Come on. Carter wants to debrief, and then we're heading home. You've earned a rest." But as Katie followed Helen through the ship's corridors, she knew there would be no rest. Not really. The galaxy had learned humanity existed, had learned humans could fight back. Some species would respect that. Others would see it as a challenge. The wars to come would make the Krell conflict look like a skirmish. But Katie Morrison, former geologist turned combat veteran, wasn't afraid, because she knew the truth that the Krell had learned too late. Humans might be physically weaker than a lot of alien species. They might not have claws or armor or natural weapons, but they had something more dangerous than any of that. They had the will to survive, no matter the cost. And that made them the most dangerous prey any predator could ever hunt. 6 months after the Krell conflict, Katie stood in a lecture hall at the Human Defense Academy on Luna, looking out at 200 fresh-faced cadets who'd never seen combat. They were young, eager, and completely unprepared for what was coming. But that was why she was here, to prepare them, to teach them the lessons she'd learned in Blood and Fire. "The galaxy is full of species that think they're apex predators," Katie began, pacing across the stage. "The Krell thought that. Pondrius. They'd hunted across 5 galaxies, consumed the warriors of 100 worlds. They saw humans as just another meal. 6 months ago, I was a geologist on a mining station, studying rock samples and dreaming about maybe making assistant director someday. Then the Krell attacked, and I killed 5 of them with a mining rifle and a plasma cutter. Not because I was trained, not because I was special, but because I was human, and humans don't quit. She pulled up footage from the Battle of Kepler Station showing mining haulers engaging Krell warships. These were civilians, engineers, miners, cargo haulers. None of them had military training, but when the choice was fight or die, they chose to fight. And they held the line long enough for the fleet to arrive. A cadet in the front row raised her hand. But we're military now. We're trained for this. How is that different? It's different because you have discipline, tactics, proper weapons, Katie said. But it's the same because when everything goes wrong, when your ship is damaged and your squad is dead and the enemy has you cornered, all that training won't matter as much as one simple fact. You're human. And humans have survived ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, plagues, wars, and every other disaster Earth could throw at us. We survived because we adapted. We overcame. We refused to give up. She advanced the footage, showing the human fleet engaging the Krell in their home system. The Krell made a fundamental mistake. They thought being predators made them superior, but predators are cowards at heart. They only attack prey they think they can beat. They strike from ambush. They avoid fair fights. Humans are different. We run toward danger, not away from it. We fight things that scare us. We take risks that no rational species would take because the alternative is unacceptable. Another cadet spoke up, a young man with nervous energy. But what if we encounter something worse than the Krell? Something we can't beat? Katie smiled, but it wasn't a comforting smile. Then we make them pay for every inch. We make them remember that hunting humans comes at a cost. And we buy time for someone else to find a way to win. She paused, letting that sink in. The Krell aren't extinct. We could have wiped them out. Admiral Carter had the firepower to reduce their colonies to ash, but we didn't. You know why? Silence. The cadets waited. Because we're not predators, Katie said. We don't hunt for sport or food. We defend what's ours. We protect the weak, and when someone threatens us, we hit back hard enough that they never threaten us again. But we don't commit genocide. We don't become the monsters we're fighting. That's what separates us from species like the Krell. The lecture continued for another hour, Katie sharing tactical lessons from the conflict, showing how civilian crews had adapted mining equipment into weapons, how coordination and teamwork had overcome superior technology. But the real lesson, the one she drove home again and again, was simpler. Humans were survivors. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the best armed, but because they refused to accept defeat. After the lecture, Katie found Admiral Carter waiting in her office. He'd been promoted to fleet commander, overseeing all human military operations in the outer sectors. Good lecture, he said. Though I notice you didn't mention the nightmares. Katie poured herself a drink, offered him one. He declined. They're cadets. They need to believe they can win. The nightmares come later, after their first real battle. No point scaring them before they've earned their scars. Fair enough. Carter pulled up a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. We've had contact with 3 more species in the past 6 months. 2 are friendly, interested in trade and diplomacy. The 3rd is watching us carefully, trying to decide if we're a threat or an opportunity. And the Krell? Quiet. They've withdrawn all their ships to their core systems. Our intelligence suggests they're rebuilding, licking their wounds. But they're not coming back to human space anytime soon. Carter zoomed in on a section of the map. However, we've detected unusual activity in the Scorpius sector. Ships appearing and disappearing, stations going silent. Could be pirates, could be raiders, could be something worse. Katie studied the data. You want me to investigate. I want you to lead the investigation. You've got combat experience, you understand how predator species think, and you've proven you can adapt on the fly. Carter met her eyes. I know you signed up to teach, not fight, but we need people like you in the field. People who've stared down death and kept going. I'll do it, Katie said without hesitation, but I want to pick my team. Veterans from Kepler Station, people who know what it's like to fight with improvised equipment and impossible odds. Done. Carter stood to leave, then paused at the door. Katie, there's something I didn't include in my reports. Something the xenobiologists discovered when they examined the Krell prisoners. They don't understand surrender. In their culture, in their biology, they fight to the death, or they consume. The ones that surrendered at the orbital station, they're considered broken, defective. The Krell will never take them back. Then what happens to them? They've requested asylum. They want to stay in human space, work for us. Some are offering intelligence on Krell military operations. Others want to integrate into human society. Carter shook his head. We fought them 6 months ago. Now they want to join us. What do we do with that? Katie thought about it, remembering the Krell warriors she'd killed, the ones that had seen her as nothing more than food. But she also remembered her own words to the cadets. We're not predators. We don't become the monsters we're fighting. We give them a chance, she said finally. We watch them carefully, make sure they're genuine, but we give them a chance to be something other than hunters. If they can adapt, if they can learn to coexist instead of consume, then maybe there's hope for peace in the long run. That's what I thought you'd say, Carter smiled. Xenobiologists will be relieved. They were worried we'd execute the prisoners or send them back to die. After Carter left, Katie stood at her window, looking out at Earth rising over the lunar horizon. 6 months ago, she'd been running for her life from alien hunters. Now she was training the next generation of defenders and preparing to head back into the black. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was the life she'd earned. Her terminal chimed with an incoming message. Helen Brooks, requesting a secure channel. Katie accepted, and Helen's face appeared on the screen. Saw your lecture. You're getting good at this teaching thing. Carter's sending me back out. Scorpius sector. Possible hostile activity. Helen nodded. I heard. That's actually why I'm calling. My tour as station commander is up next month, and I've been offered a ship. The Defiance, a new heavy cruiser. I'm assembling a crew, and I want you as my tactical officer. Katie felt a surge of the old adrenaline, the rush that came from facing impossible odds. I thought I was leading the investigation. You are, and I'm providing your transport and backup. Carter approved it an hour ago. Helen grinned. Turns out the Kepler station survivors have a reputation. Nobody wants to fight alongside us because we're crazy enough to take on warships with mining equipment, but everyone wants us on their side because we win. When do we leave? 2 weeks. That gives you time to finish your current teaching rotation and pack. Oh, and Katie? Thanks. For everything. 6 months ago, you could have jumped to faster than light and left Kepler Station to its fate, but you came to warn us instead. A lot of people are alive because of that choice. I'm human, Katie said simply. Running wasn't an option. The call ended, and Katie returned to looking at Earth. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were going about their lives, completely unaware of how close they'd come to becoming prey. They didn't know about the Krell or the battles in distant systems or the veterans who stood between humanity and the hungry dark. And that was fine. That was how it should be. Let them live their lives in peace. People like Katie would handle the monsters. 2 weeks later, the Defiance left lunar orbit with a crew of 300, heading for the Scorpius sector and whatever waited there. Katie stood on the bridge watching the stars stretch as they jumped to faster-than-light travel. Beside her, Helen commanded with quiet confidence, and around them, veterans from Kepler Station manned their stations with the easy competence of people who'd already seen the worst and survived. Contacts on long-range sensors, the tactical officer reported. Multiple ships, unknown configuration. They're not Krell. Then we're about to meet someone new, Helen said. She looked at Katie. Ready? Katie checked her sidearm, made sure her rifle was secure in its rack. Always. Good. Helen opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We're approaching an unknown contact in the Scorpius sector. We don't know if they're friendly or hostile, but we're going to find out. Remember your training. Remember Kepler Station. And remember that we're human. We don't back down. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel into chaos. Dozens of ships, none of them human or Krell, engaged in a massive battle. Weapons fire lit up the dark, and the sensors screamed warnings about radiation and debris. Analysis! Helen snapped. 2 factions, the science officer reported. One appears to be defending that colony station. The other is attacking. The defenders are losing. Katie studied the tactical display. The attacking ships were using hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and pulling back before the defenders could coordinate. They're raiders, probably scavengers, hitting weak targets. Then, let's even the odds. Helen turned to her crew. All weapons hot. Target the attacking ships. Communications, hail the defenders and let them know we're friendly. And someone get me a threat assessment on those raiders. The Defiance surged forward, its weapons blazing. The raiders, whoever they were, never saw it coming. 3 of their ships exploded before they even knew there was a human vessel in the system. The rest broke off their attack, regrouping, trying to figure out what they were facing. Katie watched as the raiders' formation shifted, becoming more organized. They're adapting. These aren't mindless pirates. They're professionals. Good, Helen said. Then they'll understand this message. She opened a broad-spectrum communication channel. Attention unidentified vessels. This is Captain Helen Brooks of the Human Defense Vessel Defiance. You are attacking a civilian station? Stand down immediately, or we will consider you hostile and respond accordingly." The response came in a language the ship's computer didn't recognize, but the tone was clear enough. Defiant. "Aggressive." The raiders weren't backing down. "Their mistake," Helen said. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when they threaten civilians in our space." The battle that followed was short and decisive. The Defiance was a purpose-built warship crewed by veterans who'd cut their teeth fighting the Krell. The raiders were skilled, but they weren't prepared for the coordinated assault that human tactics demanded. One by one, their ships were disabled or destroyed. The survivors fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead behind. The defending station hailed them, and a relieved voice came through, speaking in broken standard. "Thank you, humans. We are the Valen. We have heard stories of your war with the Krell, but we did not believe them. Now we see the stories are true. You fight like demons when cornered." "We fight like humans," Katie said, "and we don't let bullies push around the weak." "Tell me about these raiders. Who are they, and why are they targeting your station?" the Valen explained. The raiders were called the Soreth, a nomadic species that survived by taking what they needed from weaker civilizations. They'd been harassing Valen colonies for years, always hitting targets that couldn't fight back. The Valen had tried diplomacy, offering trade, even tribute. Nothing worked. The Soreth took what they wanted by force. "Then they're going to learn the same lesson the Krell learned," Helen said, "that there are consequences for attacking people under human protection." "But we are not under human protection," the Valen said, confused. "You are now," Katie replied, "whether you want it or not. Because that's what humans do. We see someone being hurt, and we step in. It's not always smart, and it's not always easy, but it's who we are." The Defiance stayed in the system for 3 days, helping the Valen repair their station and establish better defenses. Katie trained their security forces in basic combat tactics, showing them how to turn mining equipment and cargo haulers into defensive weapons. It was like Kepler's station all over again, but this time she knew what she was doing. On the 3rd day, a Soreth delegation arrived requesting negotiations. They were smaller than Katie expected, barely 6 feet tall, with sleek bodies built for speed rather than strength. Their leader, who called himself Verex, studied the humans with obvious caution. "We did not know the Valen had allied with humans," Verex said. "We will withdraw from this system and seek easier prey elsewhere." "No," Katie said flatly. "You'll stop raiding entirely, or we'll hunt you down system by system until you can't threaten anyone." Verex laughed, a high-pitched sound like breaking glass. "You cannot police the entire galaxy, human. There are thousands of systems, millions of targets. You cannot protect them all." "We don't have to protect them all," Helen said. "We just have to make it clear that raiding comes at a cost. Every time you attack a civilian target, you risk running into humans. And when you do, you lose ships, resources, crew. Eventually, the math stops working in your favor." Verex considered this. "And if we agree, what then?" "Then we'll trade with you instead of fighting you," Katie said. "The Valen have resources you need. We can facilitate fair exchanges, help you find legitimate ways to survive. But the raiding stops. Today." There was a long silence. Then Verex nodded slowly. "We will consider your offer. But know this, humans. You have made yourselves the galaxy's guardians, whether you intended to or not. Other species will come to you for help. They will expect you to fight their battles, solve their problems. Can you sustain that burden?" "We'll figure it out," Katie said. "That's what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. And we make sure the monsters stay in the dark where they belong." The Soreth departed, and the Defiance continued its patrol of the Scorpius sector. They encountered 2 more species, both peaceful, both relieved to learn humans were in the area. Word was spreading through the galaxy. Humans were defenders, protectors, warriors who fought not for conquest, but for justice. Katie stood on the bridge, watching another system pass by, and thought about the strange path her life had taken. She had started as a geologist who just wanted to study rocks. Now she was a soldier, a teacher, a symbol of humanity's refusal to be prey. It wasn't what she'd planned, but it was right. "Penny for your thoughts," Helen said, joining her at the viewport. "Just thinking about how everything changed," Katie replied. "The Krell saw us as prey. Now half the galaxy sees us as protectors. We went from hunting to being hunted to becoming the hunters ourselves." "Not hunters," Helen corrected. "Guardians? There's a difference. Hunters kill for sport or food. Guardians fight to protect. We're not like the Krell or the Soreth. We're better than that." Katie nodded. "Yeah, we are. and that's why we'll keep winning. Because when the choice is between doing what's easy and doing what's right, humans choose right, every single time. The Defiance continued on its patrol, a single ship in an infinite galaxy, crewed by humans who'd decided that prey was something other species could be. Not them. Never them. Because they were human, and humans didn't quit, didn't break, didn't surrender. They fought back with everything they had, and they made sure the predators of the galaxy understood one simple truth: humanity was no longer on the menu. And anyone who forgot that lesson learned it the hard way.